Hi, Tammy Kabell here again, creator of the Six Figure Pro online coaching program and also founder of Career Resume Consulting, where we get our clients their next jobs in weeks instead of months. So in this video from the video series, we're going to be busting some myths today. I'm really excited about sharing this information with you because these are myths that most people feel are true, but with the job market today are not, and they can keep you from getting the job that you deserve and you love and that excites you and that pays you what you're worth. So I want to bust some of those myths for you today. And this is a longer video, but I think it's well worth listening to and taking some notes. I'll see you on the other side. These strategies really do allow you to get a job in a number of weeks instead of the 18 to 24 months that six-figure people usually spend looking for a position. And it also allows you to get paid what you're worth. But really it's this three-pronged approach that allows you to get into the doors of the employers more often and actually ends up getting you a job in weeks instead of the 18 to 24 month average that most six-figure job seekers have. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself if you don't know my story. I worked for a lot of small and very large businesses, and after being with one large company for 10 years, on my 10-year anniversary, I was laid off. And it was a very dark period for me. It probably was the worst 12 months of my life when I was unemployed. And I remember we had a $30 Christmas that year, and luckily my kids were young enough that they didn't mind getting hair bands and shampoo for Christmas presents that year. And I can tell you, I never want to be in that position again. And so that's one of the reasons that I've decided to go into business for myself. After spending 5 years in an executive career firm, I started a business myself and have been in that business for 5 years. And in the 5 years that I've owned my own business, I've been able to help people move from mid-level positions to top-tier positions on a consistent basis. In fact, there was recently a commercial lender who was an individual contributor that ended up getting a chief lending officer position within 7 weeks. And in addition to that, I've had a gentleman who was looking for a sales support manager position, ended up getting a C-level position. He got a CFO position, and that took him about 6 weeks. And then I also remember a gentleman by the name of Craig who was looking for a business development VP position, and he ended up taking a position as CEO. And how does that happen? Well, it's usually because people see you, if you use these strategies, people see you as an expert and they want to hire your expertise and they'll pay you more and you get a job faster. I think Craig took about 9 weeks to find that CEO job. So today what I'd like to do, I'd like to start out with busting some myths that you might believe about the job market that really are not serving you very well right now. So let's go over here and have myth busting time with Tammy. All right, so let's talk about some myths of the job market. Myths are really limiting beliefs that can keep you from being most effective in your search. And so I want to cover some of those today. I think that it's worth looking at because there are a lot of beliefs out there that most job seekers have that really don't serve you and really don't allow you to be as effective as you can be in the job search. So let's go over maybe a dozen myths or so. First one is I have to dumb down my resume. I have to dumb down my expertise. That's absolutely a myth. In fact, the first time that I was in the Wall Street Journal was about dumbing down resumes. And I strongly believe that you shouldn't dumb down your resume, you shouldn't dumb down your experience, your LinkedIn profile. You need to give yourself credit for everything that you've done and really show yourself to be an expert in a lot of different areas. So you do not have to dumb down your resume or your expertise, especially in an interview when you're going after a job. A lot of people go after jobs that are beneath them or taking a lesser job than what they think they're qualified for. I really believe strongly that you should go after jobs that you are highly qualified for. I've found that sometimes, well, oftentimes, it's easier to get a job that you're more qualified for than something that you're overqualified for, because there are legitimate reasons why employers won't hire overqualified people. Second one is I have to match my resume to the posted jobs keywords. That's a big one, and I can tell you, having a lot of friends that are recruiters and HR professionals, that they absolutely hate looking at a stack of 150 to 500 resumes that look exactly like the job description, because they don't know who to choose. They don't know what's different about you. So what I recommend instead is putting together a resume that defines you and defines your strengths, and not necessarily filling it with keywords that the job description has, because if you look exactly like the job description, it may get you past the automated robots if you're applying online, but it's not going to get you a phone call. And that's really what you need. The whole reason to have a resume is to get that first phone call. All right, next, I have to go back to school or get more certifications. This is a really popular myth that I've been able to dispel by getting my clients positions that they're very qualified for without having to go back to school and get certifications. You don't have to get a master's degree if you don't have one. You don't have to, if you're in operations, you don't necessarily have to be Six Sigma certified. You can actually get a position as long as you can speak intelligently to what your expertise is and you can articulate that expertise. You don't really need to get the certifications. Certifications are important if you are looking online, but there are other ways to look for a job, which we've gone over, and it's a much more effective way to look for a position if you're articulating your expertise and proactively contacting companies that meet your search criteria and companies that are growing and doing networking. You don't necessarily need to have those certifications or those letters after your name. I have to go through HR, and that's a myth that we dispelled earlier in this video. And you don't need to go through HR. That's what most people believe to be the proper way to find a job, but actually I've got a client that calls HR the business prevention unit, because it's their job to weed out everybody. But if you actually contact the person that would be your boss, then you'll get a much better response. Whether or not you know that they're looking for a position, you actually get a better response contacting the person that would be your boss through finding them on LinkedIn or online versus just going through human resources. You know, HR these days still gets anywhere from 600 to 1,000 resumes on each posting, and so if they decide to look at the first 300 resumes and you're number 301, then you're out of luck and you're not even going to be seen by a human being. And that's what happens. That's why people feel that there's a black hole when they're applying online, because it goes into cyberspace and your resume never gets looked at by a human being. So you don't have to go through HR. It's actually very effective to bypass HR and actually contact the person that would be your boss. All right, next one. I have to accept a lesser position because of the job market. So actually, and we covered this a little bit, you don't have to accept a lesser position. You can get a position that you're highly qualified for, and you will get it more frequently than if you apply for all of those mid-level positions that are beneath your qualifications, or even trying to go back and get an entry-level position when you know that you're qualified for something more. I can't negotiate in this economy. That's a big myth, and you can leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table if you don't negotiate. It's expected that you negotiate with any professional position. There is always a range, and the employer will usually give you even if they think you are an expert, generally speaking, if there's a range, they will offer you the bottom or the mid-tier because they want to see how cheap they can get you. But and you know, it makes business sense to do that, but you can always negotiate. And what I usually find is that if you negotiate, and you negotiate the right way, you can actually get easily 15 to 25% more than what they've initially offered. And I have seen 50 to even 100% more than what they initially offered. It's amazing what you can get when you negotiate the right way. And the right way really is to make sure that you're not giving your salary ahead of time, and that you're postponing the negotiation talks, or postponing any money talks really, until they've offered you the position and they know that you're the person that they want to get. So make sure that you don't talk about money until they've offered you the job, and then when you do ask, definitely give a good reason, and not just the fact that you want more money or that you need more money, but give a great reason. And when you do give a reason and it's honest and sincere, then I found that you're not going to upset the employer, the hiring manager, if you ask. Even if they can't give you what you're asking, you're not going to upset them if they can't give you that. So definitely negotiate every time you get a job offer, and if it's not what you want or what you need or what you're worth, then keep on going and try to find something else. Because if you've got an actual plan and you're working that plan, then it will be just a matter of weeks instead of 18 to 24 months before you get the job, and before you get a job that you're qualified for, that will pay you what you're worth. All right, I'll forever be stuck in the same industry. Oh, this is a really big one that most people believe to be true, but actually most of my clients do switch industries successfully, and it's all about creating your expertise in a way that is industry neutral. And what I mean by that is that you're stripping away the context of what you've done, you're not using industry jargon, and you're putting your transferable skills on your resume, and also using that verbiage in all of your interviews and all of your communication. You need to make sure that all of your communication is industry neutral, because you have to make it easy for the employer to picture you in their organization. And in order to do that, you have to strip away all the jargon, you have to strip away the context of what you've done, and just put the raw achievements on your resume, and speak about those achievements without any jargon when you're talking in an interview. When you do that, it's actually very easy to move industries. Let me give you another tip too, and that is, if they object to you having no industry experience, you can use what's called the ARTS method of overcoming objections. And ARTS stands for A, acknowledge the objection; R, redirect their concern with an assumptive question; T, use a testing question to see if that's answered their concern; and then S, use a supporting story. So let me give you an example, because that may not make sense. If someone says, well, you don't have industry experience, you haven't had any experience in our industry, you first say, well, I can understand that, and really that deserves some discussion. So, let's talk about that. and then you ask an assumptive question. So I'm assuming that the reason that you want industry experience is because you want to make sure that the person that gets in this position can get up to speed quickly and make a contribution quickly. Is that right? Get them to agree to that, or clarify if that's not the case. And then you use a testing question. So if I give you a couple of examples of when I've gotten up to speed quickly and I've been able to contribute to the bottom line quickly, will that help ease your concern a little bit? And get them to say yes again. And then use a supporting story in your past of when you've gotten up to speed quickly and you've been able to contribute quickly. And quickly can be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. It doesn't have to be in the first month or the first couple of weeks. Really, anything less than 6 months is considered by most employers to get up to speed quickly. So let me flow that for you from beginning to end. So if they say, you know, you don't really have any industry experience, then you say, well, I can understand that, and I think it deserves some discussion. I'd like to answer that for you. I'm assuming that because you're asking for industry experience, that you want somebody that can get up to speed quickly, or you want somebody that can speak the language quickly and communicate with people in this industry. Is that right? Well, if I can show you an example or two of when I've gotten up to speed quickly and made a contribution to the bottom line, would that help you ease your concern a little bit? Well, let me give you a story and then you go into an example. And that's an arts method of overcoming objections that actually allows you to overcome any kind of objection, or really any question where you don't have an answer. If you're thinking in your head, I got nothing, I don't know what to say to this one, you use that arts method and that will make them see you as being able to handle really any question that's being thrown at you. So that's a really good tip, and it's something that I give my clients. All right, next one. Big companies are the best places to look for a position. Most people, when they're looking, have a relatively short list of companies that they want to go after. And most of those companies are companies that they've heard of. Usually they're all companies that you've heard of, and those are usually the big name brands. Here in Kansas City we have Hallmark, Cerner, Garmin, some of the bigger ones there, AMC Theaters, but really you don't have to go after companies that are big. In fact, in this economic environment right now, those big companies are the ones that are laying off. And of course the monster company here in Kansas City is Sprint. So people hear those names and those are the companies that they go after, but guess what? That's what everybody else is doing too. So that's where all of the competition is. That's where everybody's sending their resume. And really, if you go out online, there are free databases, especially if you go through the library websites, and you can find Dun & Bradstreet database, or you can find Reference USA database, and you can find companies that you can send your resume to that you've never heard of before. And those are the companies that are actually growing and doing quite well. You can also look in the Business Journal. Business Journal is a great place to find companies that are doing well that you've never heard of. So use that, and you're actually going to find companies that are hiring and growing in spite of this economy, versus companies that are still contracting or just kind of treading water. All right, networking is hard and it's a waste of time. So this one is definitely not true. It's one of the 3 things that I recommend you do in order to get a 6-figure job, or really any professional job fast, is networking. But you have to know how to do it in order to, and do it well, in order to get a job fast. And I would say, if I were going to give one tip on networking, it's the magical question of, who do you know that I should be talking with? And asking that question to people that you know, people that you don't know, people that you are having an informational interview with. There's a lot of ways that you can get somebody's attention by a phone call or by going to networking meetings, but really if you ask them that magical question, who do you know that I should be talking to? After you introduce yourself, that's really going to be the best way, one of the best ways to get a position. Recruiters are a waste of time. So this one's close to my heart because I've got a lot of recruiter friends, and you really have to know how to work with recruiters, and recruiters are not a waste of time, especially if you're in IT, accounting, engineering, or possibly an executive job. You really want to utilize recruiters because they hold about 11% of all of the jobs out there, whether it be posted online or not posted. There are a lot of recruiters out there that don't post their jobs online. And what you can do is Google your city name plus the word recruiters. Let's say you're looking for an executive position. You'll want to put in Kansas City executive recruiters, New York executive recruiters, or engineering recruiters, something like that. And then when you contact them, here's the big thing. Instead of sending your resume email like everybody else does, send it hard copy, because nobody sends it hard copy. And also put a handwritten note on there saying that you'd like to talk with them about any opportunities that they may have available for you. And when you follow up with a phone call, ask them how they prefer to be communicated with and how often. So if you want to keep them thinking about you, then you might follow up with a phone call or an email, depending on what their preferred method of communication is, and maybe follow up every 3 weeks or so, because that's not too much where there's you're bugging them, but it's enough that they will continue to keep you in their mind, especially if you approach them in a different way, like sending hard copy resume to them. That's a really neat trick, and it really does work. All right, let's see. Online job boards are the main way, or the best way, to look for a job. That couldn't be farther from the truth. Online job boards hold about 4 or 5% of all the jobs. Actually, I think the latest stat that I've seen out there is that 6% of all job seekers these days are getting their jobs through online job boards, and yet 92 to 95% of all job seekers use the job boards as their main form of looking for a job. So what does that mean? That means that you've got a small pond stocked with just a few fish, and you've got 14.5 million fishermen, actually these days closer to 20 million fishermen if you include the employed people that are looking for a job, that are putting in their resume into this small pond, and yet there's a lake out there that has 75 to 85% of all the jobs out there, and nobody goes after them. And so there's only a few fishermen doing that, and that's proactively contacting companies that are doing well and proactively contacting companies that meet your search criteria as far as what size company, what geographic location, and what industries you're interested in. So that's a much more effective way if you include proactively networking as well. It's a much more effective way to look for a job than just checking out the job boards. You may feel like you're getting things done if you spend 8 to 10 hours a day on the job boards, but you're actually just literally sending it into a black hole because of the number of resumes that get put into the job boards. The job boards these days, the whole system is pretty much broken. It used to be that there would be 10 to 25 people who would apply for a job, and the chances of you getting a phone call if you were qualified for it are great. That's not the case anymore. These days, you literally are talking about over 500 resumes. And even for mid-sized companies, not just the big companies or the big name brands, but 500 to 1,000 resumes. I've got a story for you. There was the head of HR for a large health system here in the Kansas City area asked me not too long ago how many resumes I thought that she got, or that health system got in the last 12 months. It ended up being 150,000 resumes in 12 months. And do you think they had time to look at those resumes? No. They were too busy looking at resumes that came in from people that were already working there, saying, hey, my friends or family are interested in this job, or from the hiring manager saying, hey, I got this resume and I'd like you to put this person into my system because I'd like to get them into the system and talk with them. So the 150,000 people that applied online, really most of them, large majority of them, did not get called. And that's what you're up against when you're going through the job boards. So keep that in mind. And what I always tell my clients is that since job boards hold about 5% of the jobs out there, you can go ahead and spend 5% of your week looking at the posted positions, 5% of your week posting for those positions. And the rest of the time you really should be proactively contacting the companies that make sense for you to work for, and also networking effectively. All right, last one. I'm at the mercy of a bad job market. Nope, you're not, because you as an individual are not a statistic. You don't have to be a statistic. And if you do things the way everybody else does them, you're going to get the response that everybody else gets, which is, on average, for everybody, it's 10.5 months in order to get a new position. And that's if you're unemployed and looking full-time. If you're looking for a 6-figure position, then we're talking 18 to 24 months. That's a long time. And you don't have to be that statistic. If you do things a different way, you're going to get a different result. So try doing it my way for a little bit, see what happens. It does take some work. It's not as easy as looking for a job online, but it's much more effective, infinitely more effective. I hope you enjoyed the information that I shared today, and I hope that it has empowered you to go out there and go after the job of your dreams, because it really is out there. You just have to find it. Now, how do you find it? Tomorrow I'm going to talk about the three-pronged approach that I use, my firm uses, to find the hidden job market, the 75 to 85% of jobs that aren't posted publicly. So you're going to learn about that tomorrow. I also want to thank you not only for watching this video, but really for taking action, because that's what gets you a job. And just the fact that you signed up for this and you're watching this video in the third video of the series, it shows that now you are above the rest of the job market. By the time you get done with this video series, you're going to be in the top 10% of all job seekers, and that's going to really empower you to get the job of your dreams. If you want immediate assistance, just reply to any of the emails that I've sent you, and I look forward to talking with you tomorrow about the three-pronged approach. Until then, have a great day. We'll talk tomorrow. Bye now.